Hello everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to my channel today. I have something a little bit out of the ordinary. It's not quite a lesson, but I promise by the end of the video you can definitely use this in your classroom. And if you're my students watching, tune in because your teacher's about to get real. So it is May 1st, and if you are a teacher or a child or a parent or a human being living in the world right now, April has felt like it has lasted 5 years. When the school year started in August, nobody thought we would be ending our school year in May quite like this. Teaching and simply existing in the world right now has had its stresses, anxiety, but it has also had some really good benefits, like learning how to use technology in new and exciting ways. I mean, even my church, we are going online, we're having drive-in church. School looks completely different than I thought it would look in May of my first year teaching, which has been really scary and really weird. But today I just want to tune in and talk about just some confessions of being a teacher in May, and specifically being an English teacher right now. And this is just sort of my story over the last year, and I hope that you enjoy it and can kind of maybe resonate with it. Maybe not, but I hope you can. So let's go back to the beginning. I have always loved to read. Reading has been just a wonderful, special part of my life. Both of my parents read to me all the time when I was young, which is why I think that early literacy is so important and reading aloud to children is so important, and why I try to read aloud every single day in my own classroom. So just to start out, I think that's super important. I started reading all the time when I was in late elementary school, early middle school, and I just read everything, really. I loved historical fiction. That was my favorite genre, and I still love it today. But through high school and especially college, I really hated to read. And that's something that I don't say too much because it just sounds like I'm whining, but I really didn't enjoy reading at all. And I totally understand the kids in my classroom who hate to read. So if you're watching, I get it. You still have to, but I understand why you hate it. So I just remember having assignment after assignment and book after book that I had to read, and it was awful. And I was the person for a good many years who would truly rather watch the movie than read the book. Now, I like to do both, but I was that person for a long time. And so that sort of apathy toward books was really sort of something I tried to hide, especially as an English major at a small college that you really couldn't blend in. So I tried to be excited about certain books, and I was excited about certain books and things that we read. And so I had sort of a different major. I was an English major, but I was also an English education major. So I had tons of education classes, which were really great, but I was reading so much about how to apply books into the classroom. And the knowledge that I gained from those books, it was fantastic. And there are things that I use in my classroom every single day, and I still read books like that for professional development and just to try to become a better teacher. But those books really were all I was focusing on. I was focusing on my textbooks, on the classic literature stuff that we read. I had a really great young adult lit class that I really enjoyed, and the books were fantastic. But still, I was reading for school because I had to, and because I was expected to write a term paper at the end of it. And that was where I was at. And then I got my first teaching job. So a whole new dynamic started with my relationship with reading books. So then I shifted from reading a lot of classic literature, and I got a job in 6th grade, which was super scary because I swore I would never teach middle school because they seemed very inhuman to me. And now I love my 6th graders and I love middle school. and it's awesome. But I was reading young adult, children's lit all over again. After those first months of teaching, I was at a place where I read because I felt like I had to once again. It just felt like another assignment and another challenge that I would give my students, and I would feel like I had to complete as well. And it was so frustrating. And I was giving my students a million reasons why they should love to read and why I wanted them to read and why they should enjoy it, but I wasn't enjoying it at all. Really, I mean, I wasn't enjoying reading because I felt like it was something I had to do. So fast forward into digital learning. Because I really needed to gain better tools for online learning, an online presence, online ideas, I spent so much time on teacher YouTube, teacher Instagram. I stumbled upon so many great accounts that offered free resources and ideas and books, reviews that they had read themselves, they had read with their students. And for the first time, I was reminded, and this seems really, really trivial and like I should have known this all along, but I was reminded that I should still, as a teacher, read books that I enjoy, that maybe I would never recommend to my 11-year-old students, books that spoke to me and books that I could personally learn from beyond what I can use in my classroom. Because if I don't enjoy reading, then I am not an authentic reading teacher. And that's something that I want to be. Beyond anything, I want to be authentic for my students because nobody wants to be taught by a fake teacher. So I was reminded of that. And for the first time since I started teaching, and really since I started college, I just had a new mindset really of reading. And so I picked up a book that was not for my classroom, and I started reading books on my Kindle app, which as an English major in college I thought was just very, very off-putting. Reading a book online, you don't have the pages and you can't smell the book, but I actually really love it. I love reading online and I love reading physical books. I think they're both great now. So discovering that I liked reading books on the Kindle app really just allowed me to make reading part of everyday life. And that just creating that lifestyle of being a reader has changed the way in the last few weeks that I think about reading in general. And as I'm saying this, if you don't like to read, that's okay. I'm not trying to tell you to read 100 books this year. I'm really not. I'm just sharing my own feelings as someone who felt quite burnt out after the first year of teaching, and now for the first time I'm starting to enjoy my career, enjoy the path that I chose in academia. So there you go. But that's not really why I've done this video. That's just the first part. So I talked about all of the YouTube and Instagram accounts that I had been just scrolling through and that had provided really great resources for me. And a few days ago, I saw this new challenge and a readathon actually. And to be honest, every time I would see a challenge like that pop up on my news feed, I would just scroll on past it because it just seemed like something else to put on my to-do list that I would probably at the end of the month fail to do. Because like everybody else in the world, I have a lot of things to do that I put a lot of pressure on myself to get done. And reading normally doesn't make it on that list in a normal day, or at least hadn't in the past. And so I've never done a challenge. I've never been interested in doing a challenge. The only challenges that I've ever done have been the ones that I have been a part of with my students. Once again, just to say that your teacher's doing it and you should too, go you. And that's all great, and teachers should do that. But I decided to do this challenge, and I'm going to tell you why. This challenge is called the Spark Joy Read-A-Thon. And if you've ever heard of Marie Kondo, she has a really awesome way of organizing your life and organizing your house, and you need to get rid of everything that does not spark joy in your own life. And that's kind of helped me declutter my life a little bit, so I really enjoy Marie Kondo's ideas about organization and just bringing joy into your own life. And so I saw this challenge and was intrigued. I was not completely ready to give in to the challenge, but I was intrigued. And then I saw the host's description. This readathon is hosted by Read with Sam, and her description was that it is meant to spark joy, not stress, while reading. And that really spoke to me, because the only thing that I have felt while reading for the last probably 5 years of my life has been stress. Now, I made it through undergrad. I am a reading teacher, but every time I have picked up a book, it has just caused a little bit of stress. Maybe not a lot, not like it used to in college, but still a little bit stressed out. And that has only just begun to change. So this readathon seemed like the perfect thing to begin in May. So I will jump into sharing the books that I have chosen for this readathon. I will type down below all of the prompts that you can choose. There are lots. I have chosen 6 books that I want to try to read in the month of May. And if I don't read them all, that's okay, because I'm telling myself this is not a challenge. This is meant to spark joy, not stress. So let's hop into it. Because this challenge really reminded me of Marie Kondo's method of organization, I decided to do her little trick. If I hold the book and it does not spark some kind of emotional response of joy, then I didn't choose it. I'm not going to read it in the month of May, because this challenge is meant to, this readathon is meant to spark joy, not stress. So I will begin with the young adult pick that I have chosen that goes along with the prompt, a book with the word star in the title or stars on the cover. And this book has both. If you can see, stars on the dress, star in the title. This book is called Stella by Starlight by Sharon M. Draper. And I actually received this book as part of a huge curriculum bundle in my classroom, and so many of the books from that curriculum set that I have read so far have been fantastic. So I'm excited to start this one. It is a historical fiction book, which I love that genre, as I said before, and it's set in the Depression era United States in the South, I believe. Yes, in North Carolina. Also, when I was looking up this book, I learned that Stella by Starlight is a jazz song that was very popular in the time of the Great Depression, and I really have hopes for this book that it does a great job blending musical elements along with the storyline, so I have really high hopes for this one. My second choice for the Spark Joy Read-A-Thon is going to be by DiCamillo, and this is a book that could actually fit 3 of the prompts. It could fit the book that has a yellow cover. It could be a book about a journey, but I'm going to choose this to fulfill the prompt of a book that was recommended to you, because this book was recommended by one of my favorite professors, somebody who is just brilliant and just a wonderful figure in my undergrad, but also by one of my students. And when a student comes up to me and says, "You have to read this book," then I remember that book, because my student was very, very excited in March before we began digital learning to share this book with me, and she was so upset with me that I had not read it yet. So The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane is going to be one of my May books. Now for a book that will fulfill the prompt for a book about an adventure or someone traveling. This is going to be a nonfiction pick for May, and it is called Something Needs to Change by David Platt. Now, I love David Platt's books that he has written in the past. He is a fantastic nonfiction author. He writes a ton of Christian nonfiction. His book called Radical was something that I really loved reading in high school. And I've actually already begun this book. I began it in April, but I'm still using it as the Spark Joy, as part of the Spark Joy Read-A-Thon, because it has already sparked some joy. And this book actually sparks a lot of other emotions too, like just true sadness and just the heartbreaking pictures that David Platt shares from his actual journey in the Himalayas on a missions relief trip. I have been on mission relief trips before. I've been to Africa, but the stuff that he writes about is truly heartbreaking. So I already recommend this one. I'm not done with it, but I have just super, super high hopes that I will continue gaining great things from this book and his really true opinions of what he saw.
And her husband likes it too.
And my husband likes it too. Another nonfiction pick is going to be Mary Oliver's Poetry Handbook. Now, Mary Oliver is one of my very favorite modern poets. So for another thing that will spark joy, I'm so excited to read this. It was something that I got in college and meant to read, but I never did. And this is a book with a yellow cover, and it's a nonfiction, kind of technical. It's a writing nonfiction book, but I'm so excited to dive into this. Mary Oliver's poetry is just masterful, so I can't wait to see what she brings in this nonfiction book. For a book that I have owned and have been excited to read is Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. And I adore To Kill a Mockingbird, and I have been so excited to read this book. It was a gift from my parents recently after it came out because they knew how much I love To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was actually publicized to be the sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, but it's actually more of a first draft of that novel. And I was privileged to attend a Southern Literature Conference a couple of years ago, and there was a whole panel about just the mysterious circumstances and probably unethical circumstances that surrounded the publication of this book. So it is a book that is just wrapped up in controversy, and I'm really excited to get to it. Okay, so I mentioned that I might not finish this readathon, and that's okay, because it is that. It is a readathon, and I will read as much as I can and as much as sparks joy for me in the month of May. So I have come to the book that fulfills the prompt for a book you are most intimidated by, and that is The Once and Future King by T.H. White. So I've started this book probably 4 times, and I have not finished it. I have gotten most of the way through The Sword and the Stone, which is the first book in this collection. But May is gonna be the month that I finish this bad boy. This is kind of what I would consider a modern classic. I think it's going to be really, really good. That's all I can say about it. I've heard so many people recommend this book. It could fulfill a book that's been recommended to me probably about 50 times. So this is going to be the time that I finally finish The Once and Future King. I'm really hoping. There is also a prompt on the readathon that encourages you to read a new book. And while I didn't begin this book in May, and I'm very, very nearly finished with it, I wanted to mention a book that I've been reading on my Kindle app, and it is called Miss Benson's Beetle. Actually is, oh, there you go. This is just a beautiful cover. It has been a beautiful story so far. I've been describing it as a book that feels like a children's pop-up book, and just the joy of seeing the characters come off of the page and just into your life, because this book has just been that good. Thank you NetGalley for allowing me to read Miss Benson's Beetle, to review it, and I'm so excited too because it's been great so far. It is another historical fiction book, and I'm just loving it. So that wraps up this video. This challenge has come at a perfect time. I start graduate school in just a few days, and I know that the reading will be very much overwhelming. I already know that and I'm prepared for it, but I just want to promise myself as somebody who just loved to read that I'm going to learn how to love to read again. And I think this readathon is a perfect way to just truly spark joy. So now, if you are a teacher, here's the time where I encourage you to incorporate this into your classroom. I did not even have this idea until my husband said, well, you should encourage your students to do this challenge so it can spark joy for them. So, I mean, duh, I should have thought about that immediately, but I didn't. So I want to encourage you, as if you're a teacher, go ahead and share this list with your students in your digital learning. Just encourage them to pick one or two that they read the prompt and the prompt kind of makes them feel excited, and to go and pursue a book from that prompt, something that will spark joy for them. If you are a teacher and you're feeling that May digital learning end of year burnout, then just pick one that might spark joy for you, because I promise you will find one book that will spark that joy for you. And if you're someone who happens to be watching this video, maybe you're one of my students and you hate reading, then look at the prompts and just think about something that makes you excited, that can spark joy for you. One prompt on the list is reread a book that you loved as a child. And even if that is something that is 10 pages, then read it, because if it sparked joy once, then I bet it will again. I hope you enjoyed this video, this honest confession from a teacher at the end of her first year in the month of May, at the end of digital learning, in the midst of a quarantine. And I enjoyed talking with you today and sharing the books that I have chosen for the Spark Joy Read-A-Thon for the month of May. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like down below and subscribe to this channel. I share ideas for the classroom, lessons, also just random things like this, talking about books and teaching and life. And I hope you subscribe down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.